Faites appel, s'il vous plaît, monsieur le greffier.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Hélier.
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Brelade.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité. Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Grouville.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Southern. Madame le Deputy Lavey.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Tadier.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Luce.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Doublé.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Morel.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Le Hegara.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Ayer.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Ward.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Owls.
Présente.
Madame le Deputy Gardner.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Gorst.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Farnham. Madame le Deputy Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Joseph.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Balash. Monsieur le Deputy Coles.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Porray. Monsieur le Deputy Wall.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Miles.
Présente.
Madame le Deputy Scott.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Renouf.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Curtis. Madame le Deputy Felton.
Présente.
Madame le Deputy Binet.
Présente.
Madame le Deputy Jeune.
Présente.
Madame le Deputy Miller.
Présente.
Madame le Deputy Howe.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Binet. Monsieur le Deputy Ferry.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Kovac.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Curtis.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Ward.
Présente.
Madame le Deputy Wilson.
Présente.
Madame le Deputy Stevenson.
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Andrews.
Présent.
Monsieur le doyen.
Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et les puissances de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et d'espérance, d'unir le cœur et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, de les conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toute leur délibération est accompagnée de ta bénédiction. Réussisse au bien-être et au soulagement du peuple, qu'il te plût de commettre à leurs soins. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par les mérites de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui es aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite sur la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous envoie pas en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal. Car à toi est le règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité.
Sir, the Connétable has just suffered a family bereavement. He hopes to be in this afternoon, but would ask to be excused beforehand.
Excusez.
Monsieur le Deputy Southern. Monsieur le Deputy Farnham.
Défaut.
Monsieur le Deputy Balash.
Sir, Deputy Balash has to attend a medical appointment this morning but hopes to be in the chamber later on this morning.
Excusez.
Madame le Deputy Porray.
Sir, Deputy Porray is currently on a holiday which she organised a year before before she stood for election.
I think I must ask, the members agree? Yes, excusez.
Monsieur le député Binet.
Malade.
Vous jurez que Monsieur le député Binet est tellement indisposé qu'il ne peut assister aux États sans exposer sa santé.
Si les États sont constitués. Very well. Firstly, could I welcome His Excellency to the Assembly this morning? I'm sure members will join me. And could I say a Happy New Year to all members who I've not been able to say that to personally, and to welcome everybody back to the Assembly at the start of this calendar year. A lot in front of us, and I'm sure that people have come refreshed and invigorated for the sittings ahead. Very well. There is nothing under B, C, D. I beg your pardon, and under D, notification of lodged propositions, Rent Control Tribunal nomination of chair and members P106, amendment lodged by the Minister for Housing and Communities, Skills Development Fund lodged by Deputy Andrews of St Helier, P116, establishment of a Climate Council lodged by the Minister for the Environment, P117, draft limited liability companies amendment Jersey regulations lodged by the Minister for External Relations and Financial Services, P118, draft limited liability companies winding up and dissolution amendment Jersey regulations lodged by the same Minister, P119, draft public holidays and bank holidays amendment Coronation Jersey Act lodged by the Chief Minister, P1 of 2023. Under E, there is a withdrawal of a lodged proposition. In accordance with Standing Order 34.1, the proposer has informed the Greffier of the States that it's to be withdrawn. The Draft Health Insurance Fund Miscellaneous Provisions Amendment number 4, Jersey Law P111, lodged by the Minister for Social Security. We come now to appointment of ministers, committees and panels. There's one item under this, which is the appointment of additional members to the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel. In accordance with Standing Order 1251, I invite the Chair, Deputy Scott of the panel, to make her nominations.
Sir, I would like to nominate the Constable of St One and the Constable of St Clement to join the Economic and International Affairs panels as our members.
Very well. Are those nominations seconded? Are there any other nominations? Very well, if there are no other nominations, then I declare the Connétable of St Clement of the Connétable of St One appointed as members of the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel. Very well, we come now through to questions. A number of written questions, of course, have been asked and answered, and we come now to oral questions. And the first question is to be asked by Deputy Mezek of the Minister for Housing and Communities. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister undertake to use his powers under Article 6.3e of the Residential Tenancy Jersey Law 2011 to issue an order providing for enhanced notice periods for periodic tenancies on the basis of how long that tenancy has been in place, and to protect tenants from revenge evictions if they choose to use the services of the Rent Control Tribunal, and if not, why not?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Deputy for his question. As members will be aware, I've deferred the debate on my amended proposition to establish a Rent Control Tribunal. Members will also appreciate that it is my goal to improve protections for tenants, including managing the risk of revenge evictions in the case of a tenant making use of the Rent Control Tribunal service. I'm not, however, in a position to specify how these protections will be given best effect ahead of considering the bigger picture of how improvements to tenants' rights and the functionings of the Rent Control Tribunal will be best achieved.
Thanks, sir. Until yesterday, we assumed that the Rent Control Tribunal would be set up before enhancements to security of tenure would be made. Given this development now of the deferral of the Rent Control Tribunal proposition, can the Minister confirm that he will be doing things the right way round this time and ensuring that there is enhanced security of tenure for tenants and protection from revenge evictions before a Rent Control Tribunal is put in place?
Thank you, Deputy, for that commentary. I would say what we're trying to do is build, let's use the term better way, because it seems appropriate for where I'm standing. We're trying to combine Rent Control Tribunal, residential tenancy law, and potentially independent regulators of social housing regulation. So there's a lot of work, there's a bigger amount of work to be done. And as I said, it's not necessarily a case of the order, it's a case of getting them all together in the right package for this Assembly.
So,
Deputy Miller?
so may I withdraw the DEF and Deputy Farnham, please?
Yes, indeed. Did you have a question as well, Deputy?
No, she's not allowed.
Because you aren't allowed one anyway. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister whether he does recognise the issue of the 3 months notice period being a risk for tenants that does, if you like, enhance the risk of revenge evictions. So is there a recognition from the Minister that that is a serious issue? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy, for the question. It absolutely is, and obviously one of the areas which we, obviously as a minister, people can come to the minister if they feel they have insufficient notice being given to them, and I can give a ministerial decision to extend those periods. But as I say, it's easy just to pick at one little piece of legislation and say, let's sort that bit out, let's sort that part out. I think what I'm coming from it now is we need to look at the wider picture, and it's become very apparent to me with conversations through the Christmas period that the Rent Control Tribunal and the approach to that was not the perfect solution. I don't think there is a perfect solution, but because of the history of housing over the years, I feel there's a much better approach that we can take, and I'm going to be bringing that better approach to the Assembly over the coming months.
Supplemental there?
Yes, thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, can you not reassure tenants who may be in difficult situations now by using the powers that he already has, by increasing that tenancy period? And would that not give some reassurance and perhaps even discourage revenge evictions, which is really where we want to be? Thank you, sir.
I think I've already answered that question in my last answer, sir. I mean, as I say, we can't go at this piecemeal, and this has been the problem historically in all of this regulation. It's become very apparent for me over the last 70/80 years that there's just been a piecemeal approach and a build-up, and lots of unintended consequences appear to be coming down the track from where I'm standing. So rather than say, let's sort out 3 months' notice, let's have a look at the whole areas, as I said already, about Rent Control Tribunal, residential tenancy law, about potentially independent regulators. Let's have a look at all of that and see if we can bring up a far better protection for both landlords and tenants in the long run.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister not accept that the powers held by our tenancy laws require a major review, and will he assure members that he will not allow any major review that he undertakes to slow down the process of proper tenancy reform?
Thank you, Deputy, for that question. The whole point, the whole purpose of what I'm trying to do here is actually to try and speed the process up. I feel that if I just simply push on with the Rent Control Tribunal, there is a danger that that will slow the process down. And what I want to do is to review all of these different areas, all of these different aspects, and bring them all forward in one go, as it were, to the Assembly. I think that's the best way to do that. As I said, there's a huge amount of history in this, in the whole housing sphere, in the legislation that's been provided, and I think it's a great opportunity for this Assembly to kick the past into touch and move forward and give better protections for landlords and tenants in a much better and wide-ranging way.
Supplemental.
And some sort of assurance that you will not let the whole process slow down and grind to a halt, as has happened so often in the past.
Thank you, Deputy. I appreciate your scepticism on this, and there have been an extraordinary number of propositions, amendments to propositions brought to this Assembly over the years, which I'm actually still uncovering, to my eternal frustration, actually, if I want to be honest about that. I want to get to the bottom of all of this and, as I say, offer better protections to both tenants and landlords, and just improve the whole legal framework around our housing stock at this moment in time.
I'm sorry, perhaps on that, sir.
No answer there on the assurance that he won't let the process grind into the...
I can assure you I won't.
Thank you.
Deputy Tadier.
Does the Minister accept that the reference back on the tribunal was now a good idea?
Thank you, Deputy. I think it was helpful, that's for sure. I think what I hope for what the Assembly gained out of all of this was the recognition of the level of complexity that we're dealing with and how easy it is to come across what I call unintended consequences. So with respect to that point, yes, it has been helpful.
And so to follow up on Deputy Southern's point, will he accept that some of the people that he might have been consulting with over the Christmas period, which I don't think included reform but didn't need to, because I think our position that the tribunal as it is currently put forward was flawed, sir. Does he accept that there are elements, maybe in the Assembly but certainly in wider society, who don't want to see any action taken at all, who want to see the status quo just prevail, and that cannot be allowed to happen, and that we will see urgent action being taken in the various aspects of the housing market that need to be attended to?
I'm not. Thank you, Deputy, for your question there. I'm not sure that there is a desire for the status quo right now. I think we all recognise that greater protections in the current scenario of our housing crisis that we sit in, that there are abuses going on that need to be dealt with, and that the status quo is unsatisfactory. So absolutely, that's why I'm pursuing this update. It has to be a significant update because, as I said, there's too much history in this Assembly, and it's about time, as I say, we let bygones be bygones and create a far better structure for the people of Jersey.
I have next to the Constable St Lawrence, then Deputy Feltham, then final supplementary Deputy Mezek. Constable St Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. Really, I'm seeking clarification from the Minister, because in answer to Deputy Mezek's question, I think I heard him say that if he was requested to, he would be able to lengthen the amount of notice period that is given to a tenant, which surprised me, sir. And I'd just like to ask him under what law he is able to do that.
It would just simply be a ministerial decision. So I'm allowed to do that. If someone brings that along, I can make a ministerial decision on that point.
Supplemental,
No, thank you, sir.
Very well. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. My question's related to the last question, actually, and I wanted to seek some clarity from the Minister in what kind of circumstances he would use that power, in what kind of circumstances he would consider it appropriate to use that power that he just mentioned.
I can't give you an answer on the just standing here on the floor of the Assembly. Give me some real life examples, and I can consider that.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm quite surprised by the Minister's answer, because he referred earlier to piecemeal decision-making and the need to avoid that. So I would like to ask the Minister what steps he will take to ensure that decision-making isn't piecemeal, that there is some information out there, and that tenants are in fact communicated with and are aware of their rights under those laws that the Minister has referred to?
Thank you, Deputy. I mean, we are endeavouring very hard, as I said already, to update the law, which is hugely complex. And every day I discover something new within this housing arena. All I can say to those tenants, I am working very hard every day to ensure that we get better protections for both tenants and landlords. You talked about piecemeal. A one-off decisions, ministerial decisions are, I agree, a piecemeal decision, but that is not I do not like or feel comfortable offering ministerial decisions at all. I think that shows that the law is inadequate, and I've seen this already in some of the decisions I've had to make, and I therefore believe that we've got to sort this law out, we've got to go forward in a positive way, and I'll be communicating that over the coming months, hopefully years as well.
Well, final supplementary, Deputy Medley.
Thank you, sir. The Minister has rightly spoken about avoiding a piecemeal approach on this and putting a package of measures together, which I agree with and have in fact been advocating for months now. In his email to States members yesterday, he said that P106 was being deferred. Could he confirm that in line with everything he's said this morning, that in actual fact it will be withdrawn?
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. Right now, I cannot give you a straightforward answer to that. It may well be that it is determined to be withdrawn. However, at this moment in time, it's better that we offer a deferral until I've concluded my review.
Very much. Before we move on to the second question, it may be helpful if I indicate the approach I'm taking to questions in this incident. Obviously, the States have granted 2 hours and 20 minutes for questions, and there are only 8 questions. If we carry the logic that we simply split that in the time available, if you had 2 questions, there would be over an hour for each question, which clearly isn't in any sense logical. What I'm proposing to do is allow 10 minutes per question. That seems to be an appropriate way of moving the matter on and keeping us reasonably on target, just so that members will be aware of the approach that I'm intending to take. We come now to question 2. The Deputy Tadier will ask of the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Given that a flourishing community is part of the common strategic policy, will the Minister provide his assessment of whether it's appropriate for Andiam Homes to have a policy of encouraging some residents who have lived in non-town communities for a long time and who are established there to move from those areas into the St Helier area when downsizing?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your question, Deputy. We did speak about this last night, so there's obviously some development on this idea, but here's my answer. All social housing tenants, not just those with Andiam Homes, who have applied the gateway to downsizers and have been accepted to do so, are required to actively express interest in suitable properties available regardless of location. Existing tenants have a greater degree of flexibility and choice than others on the waiting list, as they are not rebanded to a lower priority, to a lower priority band if they do not consider properties in all locations or accept reasonable offers made to them. So it's in everyone's interest to help anyone looking to downsize.
Supplemental, Deputy Chairman?
Yeah, I thank the Minister for that, and I also recognise that we did speak yesterday, and I appreciate his time because this is a complex issue. The Minister may be aware that there have been debates in this Assembly mostly focused on affordable housing for purchase, so Band 5 in Andiam, where in particular the constables but other parish representatives have spoken about the importance of people with links to particular communities remaining in those communities. And it is the case whether people want to move from the private rental sector or from already who are in trust or other social housing within that. Because of the housing stock, they're often compelled to move out of, perhaps, should we call them semi-rural, semi-urban areas into the wider conurbation. And in doing so, we're uprooting people who might have lived in certain areas for years and decades. Does he acknowledge that that's an issue and that some more sophisticated formula might be needed to recognise priority to be given to those who want to live in an area rather than those who don't or are more flexible?
Thank you, Deputy, for that question. You're absolutely right. Obviously, one of the titles in my sort of remit is housing and communities, and keeping communities together is really important to me. I'm conscious that the gateway is first of all assessed on need as a priority, and second issue is around time, and then there's kind of this sort of loosely, and I don't think it's, as you say, there's no legal requirement to adhere to this, is to keep people in their communities if possible. I think one of the points you made last night was around if there are 10 people looking for one property in their community, how do you prioritise who's the most appropriate person to live there? And it's an issue I will raise with Andium Homes and raise with the Gateway and see if there is another criteria that we can do. But I appreciate your point, and it's a really valid one. Thank you.
Well, Deputy Hegarine.
Thank you, sir. How long will a person be given to downsize and relocate, and what factors will be taken into consideration?
Thank you, Deputy, for her question. At the moment, as far as I understand it, you have a year to move if you're being asked to downsize in the rental sector. That is the current situation. Whether that's appropriate or not, I don't know, and it's something which I'm open to review. As you've been aware, as of the 1st of January, I already reviewed the criteria for the Gateway in terms of income levels. So for me, it's a very live issue at the moment. So if there are issues around people being badly stressed about resizing, having to make big decisions within a year, and that's not an appropriate timescale, I'm happy to review that.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, sir. I also asked what criteria will be taken into consideration as to whether that person will or won't be, I don't want to use the word forced, but encouraged to move.
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. I think that when you say forced, encouraged to move, I think what we have to recognise is we have to get the best use out of our housing stock. That may not sound a very humane way of doing things, but on the other hand, it's inappropriate for people who no longer require the level of accommodation, say a 3-bedroom home, and who now only require maybe a 1-bedroom home, to remain and effectively block that home from people who require that accommodation. So it is a very contentious subject, and we have to treat people like human beings. But it is appropriate that we proactively manage our housing stock and to get the most efficient use out of it. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't do that.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you. May I ask the Minister, does he have any concerns over the location of over 55 accommodation really in the centre of town, by busy roads and with the associated sometimes social issues that do come with living right in the middle of a busy town? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. I'm not aware of these issues, so if you can give me some examples, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Can I just remind you, Minister, and indeed others, to talk through the chair? If the Deputy could give me further questions, that would be the appropriate way of dealing with that. Supplemental, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. And certainly, sir, certainly as district deputies, we have, sir, dealt with some issues of exactly that kind, and I will inform you. But when...
Sorry, is this the question?
Yeah. So therefore, would the Minister encourage, as we did, the development of residents' associations so that there's communication of those issues in a more formal way and they are nipped in the bud, if you like, sir, before they grow? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your point there. Absolutely, I think it's the right thing to do.
I thank the Deputy for his point. I thank the Deputy. Very well. Final supplementary, Deputy Taddy.
First of all, if I could thank the Minister for those answers. I did tell my constituent that I would raise her issue here. So I know the Minister won't necessarily want to comment publicly on an individual case, but I think it's important to tie this to a real person, and there are many like her. So we have somebody who lives in social housing. She wants to downsize. She's in Band 1, but she's under no compulsion to downsize. And in doing so, she's keeping a 2-bedroom unit where she only wants a 1-bedroom somewhere else in the parish from being refurbished potentially and also being occupied. That particular property does have issues that need attending to in terms of water ingress. Her mental health is suffering because she's under constant, this has been a couple of years in the process. And it seems to me that there should be a system whereby she can be rehoused in the community that she wants to be and free up that home for somebody else. And I would just ask the Minister perhaps whether he would agree to accept other submissions from members and to perhaps have a short, sharp review from members across the Assembly who might have knowledge about similar cases in their communities and about finding a better way forward in this area. Would he agree to that?
Absolutely.
Very well. We come now to question 3. The Deputy Ward will ask of the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. So you caught me unawares there. I wasn't keeping track of the questions, so apologies. Can I ask the Minister, what current requirements, if any, are there for tenants and landlords to notify the government of a change of tenancy in private rental accommodation? What forms is it necessary to complete to fulfil any such requirements, and where can any such form be found? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank the Deputy for his question. I'm not sure if you're aware, but this is a matter actually which sits with the Chief Minister's department. But I do know that the control of housing and work law requires a person to notify the Chief Minister if they move to an address in Jersey and expect to be ordinarily resident at that address for a continuous period of 3 months or more. A person can notify the Minister of a change of address in several ways: online using Yoti, contacting customer and local services, the service hub, by phone, email, or by drop-in appointment, or by arranging an appointment. Paper forms are also available from customer local services by request and are also held by the letting agencies.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, sir. Quite a difficult one, actually, because I've got to get my head around that. So may I ask the Minister then, so there is no connection with the housing department and the forms when people move? Does the Minister accept that this is an opportunity missed in terms of tracking where we are and providing the sort of data that has been said before we don't have to make longer decisions over our housing? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Thank the Deputy for his question. I'm just assured here by the Chief Minister that there is a new system coming in. I'm not familiar of it at the moment, so maybe we can give you some more information in answer to your question over the coming weeks. Thanks.
So perhaps I could give the Deputy more information in response to his questions through the coming weeks. I have circularised a note through the GREF saying that we'll be a little bit more assiduous in these kind of approaches going forward.
So do I get finals?
Normally not, but if no one else has asked a question. Very well. We come now to question 4 that Deputy Andrews will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Given that 13 out of 16 chairs of independent bodies and independent office holders are appointed through the executive powers of ministers, will the Chief Minister advise whether she will consider if such appointments should instead be made by the States Assembly, and if not, why not?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir, and a Happy New Year to you. So this is a matter that has previously been considered by both PPC and the Assembly, including in P205 of 2009 and the States of Jersey Appointments Procedures Jersey Law 2018, under which most appointments are now made. The 2018 law requires the Assembly to be given at least 2 weeks' notice of a minister's intention to make an appointment, during which time appointments can be questioned or challenged. These were deemed as the most preferable arrangements when this was last considered by the Assembly. I think, sir, this followed some discomfort amongst Assembly members when it came to debating the benefits or not of certain members of the public. It became quite an uncomfortable experience at times. And it should be noted that some appointments won't be covered by the 2018 law and they will be subject to their own legislative procedures. It is, of course, open to the Assembly to make whichever arrangements it prefers or sees as appropriate. Ministers will only make appointments to statutory bodies in accordance with legislation adopted by the states.
Supplemental, Deputy Andrew. Very well. We come now to question 5 that Deputy Tadier will ask of the State's Trustee of the Jersey Community Relations Trust. Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. Further to the finding of the Jersey Opinions and Lifestyle Report 2022, that in the past 12 months, just under half, 45%, of adults of Portuguese ethnicity who responded to the survey felt they'd been discriminated against because of their nationality or race. Will the trustee state whether this finding reflects the Trust's own conclusions, whether the Trust has discussed this matter, and if so, what the result of these discussions was?
Yes. I don't know who the Jersey trustee, who the trustee is. So.
Thank you, sir. It's myself.
Ah, right. Deputy. Yes.
Thank you. I thank the Deputy for the question. The trustees have discussed this particular statistic in depth, and they understand that the response rate to the survey was relatively low, but they do find that those findings are extremely concerning. And they have looked at those findings alongside some of their recent research into poverty in Jersey, which makes it even more concerning. The findings and recommendations of that research are due to be published in the first quarter of 2023. And the trustees understand that discrimination reported by the Portuguese community isn't new, and believe there must be a great deal more consultation and focus than there has been to date from key policymakers and stakeholders to understand how this discrimination is experienced, why it's experienced, and most importantly, how it can be mitigated.
Thank you very much. Supplemental?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I should clarify, and I'll ask the trustee this question because she may not be able to answer it immediately, sir, so it may be something she could go away and consider. But figure 8.7 of the report says that it talks about the proportion of adults who feel they've been discriminated against, and it's saying that 45% of them are Portuguese. So it's not clear to me whether 45% of the people who feel discriminated against are Portuguese in that, or that 45% of Portuguese people living in the island feel that they've suffered discrimination. I think that, first of all, that's quite key to establish. I wonder if she could look into that more, and because if the sentence that is below, which says that just under half of adults of Portuguese ethnicity feel discriminated against because of nationality and race, that seems like we have some kind of pandemic that specifically affects Portuguese individuals in our island. And I think either way, it's a serious statistic. Will she look into that and seek to report back to the Assembly as the trustee for that organisation, so that we can understand better the issues facing this particular community, but also perhaps other respondents to the survey, sir?
The Deputy raises some really important points, and I think, and I welcome the chance to discuss this in the Assembly, actually, and to respond to the Deputy, because I think we don't talk about these issues enough. I think analysing data is important, because to know how to tackle a problem, first of all, we need to know the extent of it. And I think what I will be doing is encouraging the Trust to perhaps ask for the raw data, or ask for a presentation from Statistics Jersey on this data, so that they can better understand the problem and therefore know how to advise our community on how to tackle it.
Thank you very much. Well, then that brings us to question 6. That Deputy Catherine Curtis will ask of the Minister for Housing and Communities. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister consider abandoning the current qualification criteria for registering for affordable housing, so that all islanders in need are eligible to register on the Affordable Housing Gateway? And if not, why not?
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for her question. I'm fully committed to making sustainable changes to the Affordable Housing Gateway to ensure as many islanders as possible are able to access social rented accommodation if they need it. Changing the eligibility criteria must be carefully considered. I'm not in a position to simply say I will consider abandoning it altogether. It is vital that changes to the gateway are sustainable, fair and manageable. I also consider it vital we do all we can to understand the true extent of social housing needs. The current gateway format only provides us with a portrait of demand relative to the current eligibility policy. So therefore, whilst I am not in a position to say I will abandon the criteria, I am exploring how a change to the gateway format might be made to allow all islanders to register their future interest in social housing, which will provide us with a more accurate portrait of social housing demand in the community. Again, this is a change that needs to be carefully considered, and I will look to provide an update as soon as possible.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, thank you. I thank the Deputy for his answers. He stated that he wants it to be a fair process. And as an example, a single applicant who earns £33,000 a year would have to pay around £16,000 per year for a one-bedroom flat. That would be 48% of their gross salary, and that is rental stress. That person would not be able to apply currently to the Housing Gateway. Does the Minister think that that is addressing housing need, and is it fair?
Minister.
Thank you, Sarah, and I thank the Deputy for her question. You raise a really good point. What is fair? What is our definition of fair? I think I commented on the reason I changed the criteria of the Gateway for the beginning of this year was because I felt it wasn't fair. I saw 100 applications which had got turned down, and I looked at all of those in detail and considered that actually our gateway was not set at a level which is appropriate for these individuals who were feeling rental stress as you described. So you correctly identify where does that level sit. That's something which is a challenge for us all. And as I say, I think one of the ideas behind working out what that level should be and what a fair level is by somehow surfacing all of those who cannot at the current settings within the gateway to be surfaced, that information to be collected, and that data. We keep talking about data, or I keep talking about data, I don't know about we, but I keep talking about data, and that is where we lack. We need to get better data so that we can be better informed and do a better job for the people of Jersey.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister accept that one way that you can reduce the need for people to register for social housing is to make it easier to survive in the private sector? And could he therefore update members on the status of the residential tenancy law that he is working on, and whether it will include, as has been proposed multiple times before, a form of rent control to end the rampant rental inflation that Ireland is seeing in the private sector, and therefore reduce need for affordable housing?
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for his question. I'm not quite sure how that relates to the Housing Gateway, but the reality is we are developing a new residential tenancy law, which is currently work in progress, which is through this year and will be brought to the Assembly in due course. So we are working on that very carefully. As I said in answer to my earlier questions, we are reviewing the whole of this package right now, and that will also inform what the law looks like in 23/24.
Supplemental, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, sir. He said the law will be brought to the Assembly in due course. Can he be more specific than that? Will that be Q2, Q3, by the end of this year, early next year?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Deputy, for his question again. The answer is I don't have an exact date on that. I will endeavour to firm up for you.
For the Deputy. Yes.
So may I suggest a system of yellow cards? I
was actually going to suggest that people might like to look at the chair when they're answering, because that way if you say you know it's not me. And so you know you're getting it wrong. Or if that's unpalatable, look at the mace. But probably don't look at the person who's actually asked the question. Very well. Constable Brillard.
Thank you, sir. The Deputy mentioned that he will be undertaking a review. Will that review, sir, be fed by housing providers on the island, Reform, all the various trusts, or will he be seeking input from other parties, and who might these other parties be? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Constable for his question. We are looking to review. I'm assuming that the Constable is talking about parish input and other, as you say, other social housing providers as opposed to simply Andium Homes, the other trusts. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. We are seeking to get as much input as we possibly can, and it's because of input from these various bodies that I have actually postponed the setting up of the Rent Tribunal panel.
Supplemental content?
Yes, thank the Minister for his answer, but the parishes, I don't believe, have had any communication to date on the matter, so we look forward to having it really confirmed that he will be in touch in short order. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, and of course we will.
Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. I'm pleased to follow the last question as it does relate to the review. I'd like the Minister, if possible, to give us some further clarity about what the terms of reference are for the review and if those terms of reference are published, and if not, why not? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for her question. I think what's very difficult is to publish anything at this moment in time. I think what we have is a situation whereby we are developing policy, and it's policy under review at the moment. So that's really all I can say. I'm not sure if I can say any more. Maybe that doesn't satisfy the Deputy. However, that's the reality of the situation right now.
Supplemental, Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister confirm whether or not he has signed off on some terms of reference for the review, and if he has consulted with the relevant scrutiny panels on such terms of reference? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank the Deputy for the question. We haven't got that far yet.
I have next Deputy Tadier, Deputy Southern, then Deputy Catherine Curtis for a final supplementary. Deputy Tadier.
So does the Minister share my reading of history that there is a lack of social housing now? There has always been a lack of social housing in modern times, and that because of a lack of social housing, the private sector were encouraged to fulfil the need that social housing would be providing, and part of that was through a rental component through income support, which effectively goes directly to the landlord. And if he does, and even if he doesn't accept that, would he also agree that it might be worth considering as an interim measure until we hopefully get a significant more amount of social housing stock, that private landlords be encouraged to become social landlords? Is that something that he would be willing to look at? So private landlords who wish to subscribe to the process of becoming a social landlord to charge affordable rents, etc., and everything that goes with it, could then benefit from having access to social tenants.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for his question. That's an interesting idea because it sounds very much like government trying to interfere in the private sector market, which I'm not pro at all. I personally believe that the way in which we control rents to a degree is by building more homes. We're planning on building 3,000 more homes by 2030. I think that will increase supply. That therefore gives people more choice, and more choice usually means more competitive rental levels. So I think that's as far as I would go on that.
So
Deputy? Yes.
Does the Minister accept that by giving money, taxpayers' money, to private landlords to help people who can't afford to pay their rent, that's already interfering in the private market? And that if he wants to remain a purist and say that we should have private and public sector, then we should say if you want to rent and you can't afford it, you have to do it in the public sector. What's his solution to high rents in the private sector, which seem to be spiralling out of control this year with 10% RPI, which the renters are certainly not seeing reflected in their wage packet?
Thank you, sir. And thank the Deputy for his point. What I would say is that because we have Andium Homes, our own social housing provider, their rent increase is capped to 4%. So clearly, if the private sector continues to increase rental levels at 10%, for those who have access to the gateway, they suddenly the gateway comes into play. So by the sheer fact that we have a cap in the social sector is going to help to keep rents under better control. But it does come down to what I said earlier about supply and demand. If we have insufficient supply of housing, we are going to see rents climb to level or continue to climb. If we don't continue to build and we decrease the supply of stock, which is what we're trying actively not doing, we're actively building at this moment in time, we will increase supply. I repeat my point, which is that increasing supply dampens the demand on rent level increases. So that is my objective at this moment in time. I also, in answer to your point about should the state be subsidising private landlords, I don't believe they should be. However, I recognise that because people don't have access to social housing, we talked about a review earlier about the housing gateway. These are all the issues which come up in this very, very complex subject area. So as a purist, no, I wouldn't want to see landlords subsidising rent. However, we are where we are today, and if I can change that in the future, I will do.
Deputy Sullivan.
Thank you. And will the Minister accept my congratulations for being the First Minister up here to use the dread words, "that's policy in development," and I can't tell you more about it. But what you can do is seek some analysis of what the issues are without going to what you're developing as policy. So what do you see as the major issue?
What does the Minister see?
What does the Minister see, sorry sir, what does the Minister see as the major issue in examining the progress of the private sector and the public sector in terms of rental?
Thank you, sir. I thank the Deputy for his question. I'm just trying to get my head around what he was actually what the Deputy was asking me. Apologies, I'm getting better at this. The reality is we are endeavouring, the methodology at this moment in time is we are endeavouring to build more homes. It's a recognition that there are insufficient homes currently on this island for the demand that we're seeing. That's the direction of travel we need to go on in order to achieve some of the things that the Deputy has mentioned there. I'm not sure I can say an awful lot more than that.
Supplemental, Deputy Sullivan?
None needed, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Curtis.
The Minister referred to the need for data. Does he agree that the best way to collect this data would be to permit all islanders in housing need to be able to apply to the housing gateway?
Thank you, sir. And I'll refer the Deputy back to the end of the response to the oral question. So I've said that I'm exploring how a change to the gateway format might be made to allow all islanders to register their future interest in social housing. So we are proactively looking at that as a policy to develop. We have to be very, very careful. I think I've been criticised already by Deputy Mezek for opening up the gateway to the current levels because he believed there wasn't sufficient housing stock. I think we've evidenced that that is not the case, but we need to know more. We need more data. We need to really surface those people who are sofa surfing, those people who are very concerned about anything to do with government. We really, really need to work hard on identifying the exact levels of demand, and that's my intention in 2023.
Very much. Before moving to the next question, could I just mention to members the purpose of speaking and addressing comments through the chair? I'm sure many will be aware, but for those who are new, it may seem a rather arcane and sometimes difficult craft, and not everyone gets it right all of the time. The importance is that it puts a layer between members in terms of their question and answer, which is perhaps not so important in a relatively friendly exchange in the Assembly this morning. But when things get very heated, when people are very passionate about something, then it is much better to address the remarks to the third person rather than directly to the individual. And that's the main purpose for addressing remarks to the Chair as a matter of habitual practice. I hope that is of some assistance at least. We come to question 7. The Deputy Ward will ask of the Minister for Social Security. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. And may I ask the Minister, will the Minister provide details of the advice and assistance available to pensioners who, although they may be homeowners, have an income that is leading to a level of income poverty? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank the Deputy for his question and for giving me the opportunity to discuss some of the services we offer to support pensioner households. It is important that pensioner homeowners understand that they can receive help from income support if they're on a low income. We do try to communicate our benefits, but some pensioners may still not be aware that there are benefits available to them. Everyone in Jersey who receives an old age pension receives a pension statement at this time of year, and the letter always includes a leaflet setting out all the benefits available to lower income pensioners. These include help with heating costs, a Christmas bonus, help with dental, optical and chiropody costs through the Pension Plus scheme, low-cost GP visits and the community cost bonus. For those over 75, free TV licences are also available. A specialist pension and care team at Customer Local Services has been established to help pensioners, and the team can also give details of other forms of support and signpost to services in the voluntary sector. The Closer to Home team also provides support across the island through regular services and community events. And most recently, sir, the new Older Persons Living Forum has just been set up to make sure that the views and needs of older people are understood by government. That forum held its first meeting towards the end of last year and will meet going forward every 2 months.
Much. Supplemental question, Deputy Ward.
Yes, thank you, sir. I thank you, Minister. Minister, just to say, sir, that this is a question that came from a constituent, as does the other one from constituency drop-in, so it's a really important issue, sir. Can I ask, and I feel reassured by the Minister that there is information there. Can I ask the Minister, is she certain that those of pensionable age who perhaps don't get a full pension but are homeowners are aware and that they may be entitled to more? Because I think sometimes there's a belief that we don't count in that system. And I wonder if there's anything else that can be done in those terms, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I agree with the Deputy. There may be pensioners who are not aware that they may qualify for income support. I would ask everybody here to make sure that where they have constituents, they let them know that that there may be help available to them. As I say, we certainly go out once a year with a leaflet, and we do have other forms of mechanism. I would urge any pensioner who may be listening in, if they are struggling, if they do contact CLS, the Pension and Care team. For example, an islander emailed me last week, I think, asking about extension of Pension Plus. I suggested she spoke to the team. They have already established that a free TV licence will be available and that they may very well qualify for some form of support through the impairment component. So I think everybody just needs to be aware, and we really are doing everything we can to make sure that's publicised. I think, sir, we also do have a slight, not a slight issue, but I think we are talking about a generation who are sometimes very reluctant to ask for help that's available to them. So really everything we can all do to get that message to our constituents and across the island through all the events we have, then the better. Thank you.
Deputy Tadier.
So notwithstanding the Minister's good words there, I think there's a risk we're talking at cross purposes here, and also that she may be offering false hope. I think what this question is very much about is somebody who is perhaps classically called asset rich, cash poor. So they may own their own home, but they just don't have any income. So that might include not having a pension. Is it not the case that somebody in that situation, apart from some fringe benefits, which I'm sure are important to most pensioners, is in a situation where they can't get any meaningful benefits because they'll be told you have an asset which is worth many hundreds of thousands of pounds, and the advice presumably is sell your house so that you can afford to live, and rent for as long as you need to, and then if and when that money is exhausted, provided you've spent it in a non-profligate way, we will then consider giving you income support at some distant time in the future. Is that not the current advice and situation that we're really talking about here?
Sir, I'm disappointed with that question because I don't believe that's the case. I do not believe if a pensioner who has no income but has a home goes to CLS, they will be told to sell their home. There are many things a pensioner can do in terms of developing or generating funds through using their property, but I don't believe we push people to that. As I have said, homeowners will be supported by income support if they're on low income, and all of those other benefits are available. I have asked my team more recently to look at the disregards. I think the issue that the home is not taken into account as in the asset disregards. The disregard at the moment is for savings of £30,000, and that is what cuts people out of income support and some of the other benefits. I have already asked my team to bring me proposals regarding increasing the savings disregards, both for Pension Plus and income support, but I certainly do not believe that pensioners with low income are being told to sell their homes if they go to CLS.
Supplemental, Deputy Tadier.
So I would disagree with that, and that's not necessarily a criticism, because I think the current policy is that if you have an asset that's worth a certain amount, if you have a house which is worth £700,000, that's treated the same as if you had £700,000 in the bank account, and of course somebody with that kind of money is not going to be given access to income support. So I think it's interesting that the Minister is pursuing a different line of policy to take.
This has to come to a question.
It is a question, sir.
Right,
I thank your indulgence. I know that we're allowing more time for questions. The question is, could she perhaps consult more widely, if it is the intention to take into account somebody's home and disregard that? I think that's a fundamental shift which will be highly controversial in the Assembly and in the wider community, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think the Deputy has actually just not listened to my answer. What I have just said is that the home is not taken into account with income support. The home is, we look at savings, which is cash in the bank. We do not monetise the home. If the Deputy would like to provide me some hard evidence of that, it seems to me that he is speculating and assuming that if someone with a property goes and asks for help when they have no income and no savings, they will not be supported. I do not believe that's the case, and the value of the home is not taken into account. I do think we need to look at ways of producing, and again, I've discussed this at it came up almost a conversation last week, what we do in terms of facilitating benefits to homeowners and perhaps allowing them to draw benefits against the value of the home. That does not happen at the moment, and the value of the home, I believe, is not taken into account. If the Deputy can prove otherwise, I'll be very happy to discuss that with him and to take that with my team and discuss it further.
I have Deputy Feltham, then Deputy Southern, then final supplementary. Deputy Ward, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. The Minister has suggested that pensioners call the Pension and Care Hub so that the Pension and Care Hub perhaps doesn't get overwhelmed by calls from people who are not eligible. Could the Minister give us some more clarity about the circumstances which would make pensioners ineligible for income support?
I believe what makes pensioners thank you, sir. I thank Deputy for her question. My understanding is that what makes pensioners ineligible is savings of more than £30,000. If a person has limited income and savings of under £30,000, my belief is that they will be eligible for income support, and they will also be eligible for the other benefits that I've listed earlier, such as health access, cold weather payments, community cost bonus. They are definitely eligible for community cost bonus. And just in terms of contacting the pension and care team, they can contact them through phone. The drop-in service is now available at Lamott Street. If pensioners want to go in, they can talk to someone directly at Lamott Street if they want to wait. They can phone and make an appointment, and they can also access some of our services online. There are some pensioners, I know not all, but there are pensioners who can access services online. So there are very many ways for pensioners to contact the department and take advice about support that's available to them. Thank you.
Minister, supplemental, Deputy Felton.
Yes, thank you. Again, to provide some clarity to some of those pensioners that may well be thinking that they may be eligible for income support, who are homeowners, can the Minister clarify what components those pensioners would be eligible for and what the value of those components is likely to be? Thank you.
Sir, I think that's an impossible question for me to answer because I'm afraid I don't know the detail of the numerous payments that are available. All I can say, and again, the amount of income support that's available, certainly basic income support will be available. The people I was talking about last week maybe qualify for impairment where there's a level of disability or physical or mental illness. They may qualify for the impairment component. Those are all driven very much by the individual's own circumstances, so it's simply impossible to pluck a number out of there and say this is what a pensioner will be entitled to. It depends very much on their own circumstances. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Southern.
Yes, sir. Would the Minister not agree that her list of benefits for which pensioners might be eligible is actually a list of one-off payments and not continuous support? And does she not further agree that the savings that she refers to, the rate at which the savings are held is of the order of 20%? So money over £30,000, you charged as if you are getting 20% of that sum. Is that not the case?
Sir, I'm sorry, I don't fully understand the question about 20% over £30,000. I believe the system works that the way the current rules apply are that if you have savings of more than £30,000, you will not qualify for income support. I don't understand, I'm afraid, the Deputy's reference to being treated as if you're 20% more. I agree with him that some of the benefits that I mentioned are one-off payments, such as the community cost bonus, which is a one-off payment of £516. However, the cold weather payment, cold weather bonus, I believe, is paid in 2 instalments. That will help some pensioner households. There may be other pensioner households who will get the cold weather bonus. I believe that's paid monthly over the 6 months of the winter between October and March. The Pension Plus scheme deals with optical, dental and chiropody payments on an ongoing basis. TV licence is a one-off fee. Health Access scheme allows regular visits to the GP. So there is a combination of one-off and regular payments which are available to pensioners as they are available to other low-income families. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Southern.
Yes, sir. And perhaps I can be more clear so that the Minister might understand my drift this time round. The fact is that if you have savings and you're a pensioner over £30,000, that sum is treated as if it is earning a rate of 20% as it sits in the bank. And that becomes the pensioner's income, and it's treated as income. Is that not the case?
Sir, I can't imagine a basis on which anybody is treated as earning 20% income on 30,000 capital. We all know interest rates have been so low for such a very long time. I just cannot think, I cannot conceive of a basis where anybody would assume that somebody with £30,000 on the bank is earning £6,000 in interest a year. Nobody is getting that sort of money from their banks. So I simply don't agree with the Deputy that that's the case. I think we look entirely at the cash sum, we look at people's income, whatever the income is from their pension. If they do have other investment income, I imagine that will be taken into account. But I do not believe, and I don't accept, that people are treated as having £6,000 of income because they have £30,000 in the bank. Thank you, sir.
Right, final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I thank the Minister for some of the answers there. So I just asked the Minister, does the Minister feel that it's time that we looked at the situation of pensioners and income support again? An example that was given is that some pensioners who have service costs in the homes that they live in on low incomes really struggle at times, and it can force them to have to think about moving out of their home because they simply don't have the income to put up. And the changing situation of housing over the last 10 or 15 years, sir, has led to some different and nuanced situations. So would the Minister be pleased, be willing to look at some of those situations again and perhaps even take some contact from some of the people that we've been speaking to? Thank you, sir.
So yes, I think the Deputy is quite right that there may very well be pensioners who have moved into a block of flats. They own a flat where there are service charges, and service charges are increasing. I imagine service charge. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know if service charges are taken into account. As I said, it is difficult. We are. It's always going to be conceptually difficult to support people to live in a block of flats with high service charges where there are the people who are basically funding benefits, which are younger working age people, are themselves unable to buy flats like that because of cost. As you know, as everybody knows in the Assembly, because I've discussed it several times now, we are conducting a review of their entire benefits this year, and I do particularly want to look at pensioner benefits, to look at how we help pensioners more, and indeed how we can, although as I've said, there are things that people can do. If they have valuable property, they can release equity from the property. That does mean going to the financial services market, which may be difficult. And I think it may be we can look at devising benefits that allow people to draw on support from government, perhaps with some degree of security against a house at a later stage. That's entirely off the top of my head thought that came into my head last year. It may go nowhere, but we are certainly looking very closely at pensioner benefits, and we are very conscious of the impact of cost of living. And as I say, I have also asked my team recently to look at the disregards to see if there are pensioners who can be brought into income support net and other benefits who are currently missing out because of a relatively small amount of savings. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm now to question 8. The Deputy Mezek will ask the Minister for the Environment. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Further to policy H6 in the Bridging Island Plan, which requires the government periodically to review the parameters set on requirements for private developers to provide a proportion of the homes they build as affordable housing, will the Minister advise when the next review will take place and whether he intends to increase the proportion of affordable homes delivered by the private sector, and if so, when?
Minister.
So I thank the Deputy for his question, which gives me an early opportunity to update the Assembly on a matter relating to supplementary planning guidance. This policy to which the Deputy refers, which seeks to deliver 15% of the development yield for sale or occupation by islanders eligible for assisted housing purchase on residential development schemes of 50 or more dwellings, has yet to take effect. Policy H6 of the Bridging Island Plan states that this policy will operate from January 2023. No applications falling within the scope of this policy have yet been determined. I'm working closely with the Minister for Housing and Communities to develop operational guidance to support developers and planners in the application of this policy. This will be released shortly to enable the policy to come into force in an effective manner. In terms of the other part of the Deputy's question, I think that it is appropriate for the policy to be operational for a period of time, which might be for at least 12 months, to see how it is working before the operation of the policy and its parameters are reviewed.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister consider that 15% of homes built in developments of over 50 homes to be adequate?
Sir, I think it is impossible to say. When this policy was introduced, it was a compromise between the desire to see more affordable homes delivered by the private sector and there were attempts to have a higher figure. The feeling was, I was not in the Assembly, but my understanding is that the view taken was that to do so would hamstring the development industry and reduce profitability to the extent that sites may not be brought forward at all for development, which would be counterproductive.
So it seems to me that having settled on a policy, the sensible thing to do will be to see how it plays out, to see whether it meets the objectives that were set for it, and to review at that point.
Conor Arbison-Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister please remind ministers of his definition of affordable, given that it's rather a grey area? Thank you, sir.
So that is one of the things that has to be developed in order for the policy to come into effect. One of the consequences of this policy is to increase the supply of affordable housing. Therefore, it will be appropriate to refine potentially the definitions of what is affordable homes and to develop products that might feed into that for people to access. That is the work that has to be done before this policy can become operational. So I think that has to be work in progress that is done as a part of the delivery of the guidance.
I thank the Minister. Would he be able to give a more accurate timeline on this? And there is a fundamental reason for me asking that question, because surely developers need to have that information so they can progress their various plans. Thank you, sir.
Yes, so I'm aware that a draft of the guidance was completed just before Christmas, so I would expect that to be progressed very quickly. But as I say, it requires consultation with the Minister for Housing and Communities and his team to make sure that this is a joined-up policy and that the planning and housing objectives work together to deliver products that houses and housing products that, in terms of funding, that are achieve the aims that we are attempting to achieve with this policy.
Deputy Scott.
So on the basis of the principle that it's important not only to see if your ducks will swim in a row, but if they will swim in a pond, I wonder if the Minister has considered an independent review of what might be discouraging developers from pursuing developments of affordable housing, rather than just proposing as a solution that they're told how they might apply better.
So I'm not sure that we have evidence that this policy is opposed by developers. It was brought forward in the Assembly as a compromise, as I say, and it was felt that it was supported or would gain enough support for it to work. The development of guidance around this will, of course, involve discussions with industries to make sure that it meets those objectives. And so I think what I would resist is yet another review. I think this is part of the normal process of developing guidance within the Island Plan framework, and I'm very comfortable that that process will deliver something that works for the island.
Supplemental question, Deputy Scott?
Yes, sir. Would the Minister accept that customer service in this area is vital and that it may be worth examining it?
So I'm not quite sure what the Deputy means by customer service, in the sense that if it refers to dealing with all people with an interest in this, then of course that's something that we would routinely do. Customer service in terms of the people who will actually buy the houses is something that feels like it's further down the line and not really a matter for me to comment at the moment.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, is he aware that the policy actually says a minimum of 15%? And can I assume that the policy has therefore now become only 15%, or would the Minister push for more than 15% given the desperate need on this island for affordable housing? Thank you, sir.
I think that is something that we will discuss with developers, but the aim we have to have here is we need developers to bring projects forward. They need to know that they can do that in a manner that delivers the profit that they expect. And so I think we have to strike that balance, and 15% was set as a threshold figure. It certainly is within the bounds of possibility for developers to bring forward more. and and I would hope that and encourage that they might. But there is no point in them doing that if it affects the viability of the scheme to such an extent that it is no longer worth them doing it. It is a difficult balance to be struck. The Assembly has chosen that figure as its minimum, and I think we should see how it plays out.
Supplemental, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I think it's an interesting interaction between the word threshold and minimum there, sir, but we'll pursue a little more. Is it not the case that given the desperate need for affordable housing and the fact that we are in a very fixed market on this island, sir, that leaving this to a supposedly free market is what's failed this island for years? And what needed, sir, is the Minister and his colleagues to step in, to take control of the situation, and if need be, take the land themselves and develop the affordable housing for the residents of Jersey who so desperately need it before we have the biggest brain drain in our history. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think straying in quite a slightly broader direction there. What I would say is that this is a policy that develops private sector, open market homes for affordable homes, sites for affordable homes. We already have, through social housing providers, a very large program of development of new houses for rent in the affordability sector. This is an additional policy. It's a policy which has proved powerful in the UK, where up to 10% of all affordable homes were delivered, 47% I think of all affordable homes were delivered through this mechanism in the years 2017 and 2018. So we know that this mechanism can work with a threshold of about the figure that we have. It's an additional measure. It's additional on top of what Andium are providing through their social housing programme. So I would reject the alarmism.
Well, I have Deputy Tadier, Deputy Southern, then final supplementary, Deputy Mezek. Deputy Tadier.
Thanks, sir. It may have been answered implicitly by the Minister, but does he support the policy in broad terms of having a fixed amount, let's say 15% or somewhere around that, of affordable homes for eligible private sector development?
Yes, I do.
Sir, and I think it may have been touched on by Deputy Ward's question, but does he accept that the 15% is a necessary condition for those eligible applications and not a sufficient one for the application to be passed? And that were an application to come to, for example, the planning applications panel, or indeed the officers or the Minister for approval, which only met the minimum requirements for any of the minimum requirements, it may well be seen holistically as not being suitable in terms of its aspiration, and therefore does he accept that the 15%, the message that should go out is 15% is not a target, but a minimum threshold which we would welcome being exceeded for successful applications?
So I think in straying into the territory of planning applications, the question is a slightly different one, in that any determination on a planning application is going to have regard to far more than just the question of the threshold for affordable housing. And so it is exceptionally difficult to say in the abstract whether a minimum threshold would be the single reason why you would meeting a minimum threshold would be a reason for turning down an application. I think that involves conjecture upon conjecture, and I don't really feel it's very helpful to go there.
Well, Deputy Sutton.
Yes, thank you, sir. And given the recent answers given by the Minister, does he not consider that many people out there, many voters, will be listening to his words and saying, this doesn't sound like the Minister for Environment, this sounds like the Minister for Development? Is that not the case?
I doubt that's the case, because I've been quite clear in trying to strike, in saying that we're trying to strike a balance here. It's a new policy. A new policy needs to have time to bed in. A new policy might have unintended consequences. It might be, and I hope it will be, a huge success, as I've intimated in an earlier answer. It has been successful elsewhere. It seems to me that we should be prudent in applying that policy and particularly because of the danger of unintended consequences, which might mean that fewer sites came forward for development than would otherwise be the case. So getting that balance right is important. It's a complex issue which is judged case by case by planning and by the relevant determiner of planning applications. And I look forward to seeing how it plays out over the next year or so. And I very much hope that we're able to report on a successful policy, which we might well want to tweak in the light of experience in a year or so's time.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Can the Minister confirm that that means no action for at least a year?
No, because as I've already said, we are bringing forward guidance which will enable this policy to take effect. That is the next stage in developing policy H6. We will have it in place hopefully within a few short weeks, and we will then see how it happens. The concept of allowing something to have some development and to experience it before we have a review is one which I would hope the Assembly would endorse. We're not going to put something into effect and then say after a month or so, oh my word, we're going to change it.
Final supplementary, Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. The Minister briefly alluded there that it may be a couple of weeks before the further guidance on this is provided so that it can take effect. Can he therefore confirm by what date he thinks this policy will take effect? And does he share with me the concern that I have constantly seeing proposals spoken of in the media and elsewhere for new developments of housing that don't appear to state in them that they are taking this policy into account as part of their plans? And would he also want to put a message out to those developers that this policy is imminent and they need to be prepared for it and not seek to get and not seek to think that they can subvert it by getting an application in quickly?
Certainly, sir, I would be very happy to remind developers that this policy is coming in very short order. The question of when a date will be fixed, well, that's a little tricky. I mean, obviously today we are, at some point in this sitting, we will be talking about a different piece of supplementary planning guidance. Depending on the outcome of that, the workload will change. And so we have 13 separate pieces of supplementary planning guidance mandated by the Island Plan. We have a sequence for delivering them. The states may choose to change that sequence. But at the moment, as I say, it is already in draft form. It depends upon further consultation with the Minister for Housing and Communities, and I hope to bring it forward in very short order.
Very well. That brings questions with notice to an end. We move on now to questions to ministers without notice. The first question period is for the Minister for External Relations and Financial Services. Conrad Harbison-Saviour.
Thank you, sir. In recent times, sir, there appears to be quite a bit of consolidation going on with the banks, several smaller branches being closed. It's also been reported that many people have been refused debit cards, credit cards, and indeed mortgages because of their geographic location, which is Jersey. Will the Minister, with ministerial colleagues, be pressing the banks both locally and in the UK in no uncertain terms to ensure the people of Jersey get a fair deal? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, and I thank my constable for the first question. The issue of financial services for the domestic and business community is fundamental. There is, a lot of talk about international finance, and it is the presence of the scale and number of banks and financial institutions in the past that has meant that we have been historically well served in terms of domestic financial services, of which credit cards, loans, etc., mortgages are one. The Constable is quite right that there's been consolidation. I am aware the issue of credit cards, I'm aware, has been around since 2019. it has been recently brought to the media attention. There are a number of reasons for the lack and withdrawal of credit cards. One is the issues concerning banks. It's about ring fencing. Others are about electoral registers. And there are a number of other issues. I can tell the Constable that domestic financial services is going to form a key part of my work as Financial Services Minister, working with ministerial colleagues. But I recognise the importance of it, and he's right, there are issues, and we're going to try and tackle them, but they're not immediate or easy.
Supplemental comment,
I thank the Minister for his response, sir, and if you would keep the Assembly updated. Thank you, sir.
I'm happy to do so and say so that there's a banking review going on, and I will be briefing members in time on that with my Assistant Minister and other ministerial colleagues.
Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister update the Assembly as to how relationships are developing with France, and in particular the move to reinstate the use of ID cards for travellers between France and the UK, and specifically how discussions are going with both France and the UK, sir? And the Minister can answer it in English if possible.
That was a tempting question, sir. The Chief Minister asked me to discharge external relations and put a high priority of one of 14 priorities. I think the second or third one was France. And the Deputy and members will know that we have been pretty active in France, both in terms of raising awareness in national media. We have been involved in meetings in the regions, in Normandy and Brittany. We have been in Paris. My last engagement before Christmas was meeting 2 Secretaries of State on the issues to do with identity cards, and I think that's the underlying question that the Deputy wanted to ask. The Council Ministers, and particularly the Home Affairs Minister, is absolutely, and the Economic Development Minister, is absolutely aware of the importance of this issue. It is a priority for the Home Affairs Minister. It's not my decision, it's hers, and she, of course, has to go through the proper modalities of getting approval. A minister in Jersey can be supportive, but we need to work within the framework of what is the common travel area, and I know that there are discussions going on, but I will leave the minister to answer the timeliness of that, but we recognise the importance. But having good relationships with France and delivering on that is going to help our relations generally.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
There's a Minister confident that we will resolve this issue with ID cards, given the importance to our hospitality sector and overall economy, the importance of getting our French visitors back to the island. Is he confident? And the Home Affairs Minister, I think, is looking quite confident over there. But is the Minister confident we can achieve this in time for this season? Thank you.
One thing I've learnt in my role as External Relations Minister is there's a risk that I speak about things which are of international and external relations interest, of which we help, but are within firmly other ministerial portfolios. And the issue of IT cards is firmly within the Minister for Home Affairs' remit. And I know that she wants to find a solution. And I know how important that is generally with our relationship with France. There is, in fact, a number of issues which we're trying to achieve with our French counterparts, and if it's possible for the Minister, if possible, after due consultation, and if it's possible to do so, it's going to make a real big difference to those relations. We're going to see many more French visitors. The Economic Development Minister is going to be very happy because we're going to have more French visitors. But this is one of a number of packages which External Relations is trying to work with France, and that's what I've been trying to do, put a number of issues together and almost have a set of composite discussions and try and achieve this on behalf of the Assembly.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, which jurisdictions would the Minister not sign a trade treaty with due to human rights records and violations? Thank you, sir.
The answer to that, sir, is a country which would be blacklisted by the UK. And I look forward to the supplementary.
Supplementary question, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. It's interesting that we're not making our own decisions on that. Sir, can I ask the Minister whether he would be influenced by any comments from the EU on the suitability or not of a jurisdiction in signing a trade treaty, given our work with members of the EU and our relations? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have tried to really get to grips with the various different interlocking relationships that we have in the post-Brexit world. In terms of sanctions, which would be, for example, from every member will know the difficult issue of Russia and Russian sanctions. The UK and EU are in total lockstep, which was something that was very evident from the EU dinner we had in London, and I was struck in Brussels just how unified the world is against Russia. There are other global initiatives which are done by the UN, EU working together with the US and others, and the Five Eyes. All of these countries work together in different ways to identify problematic countries. So Jersey is not a sovereign nation. We work within the foreign policy of the United Kingdom, and it's important that we have high regard to that, but of course we expect the UK to be in step with the international community.
Well, Deputy Morell. No, in fact, I don't know why.
Another deputy, beginning with M.
Yes. No, you're further down the list, Deputy, and Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. I'm just going to follow up on the Constable St Saviour's question. In light of the recently reported Jersey Consumer Council finding that overseas lenders are refusing islanders credit cards and other services owing to the lack of a centralised electoral register, does the Minister support the call for a single electoral register to be created to replace individual parishes maintaining electoral registers?
So that is one problem that, if it could be done, would allow a huge amount of additional, which is now very automated, information to be available in the algorithms that are responding to credit card and other loan applications. So if it is the will of this Assembly, it's not my decision, but I know the importance of the lack of an electoral register. Members can look at their own credit ratings on their own banking devices, and they can see the fact that our credit ratings for individuals in Jersey are lower because there is not access to a centralised register. I would like to encourage one, but it's not my decision. But I certainly see from a financial services remit point of view the absolute vital importance of it. How it's done is a matter for PPC and other members of this Assembly, and of course the constables.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, sir. So does the Minister accept that a centralised electoral register lends itself to supporting the administration of island-wide voting more than district voting?
So if I may plead the suggestion that that is not something within my remit, and I would respectfully say to the Deputy that that's not within my remit.
It certainly isn't within the remit of the basis on which you're answering questions at the moment, Minister. That must be right. Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister believe that the Jersey Financial Services Commission, as regulator, is best prepared for Jersey's money val assessment?
I thank the Deputy for his question. In the discharging of my role as External Relations Minister and Financial Services, I have been initially focusing on external relations and recently really getting under the bonnets of the various different government, regulatory and other organisations. And I must say that I have been quite impressed by the DG and other work that I've seen with the JFSC. I recognise that the important relationship that government has, together with law officers and others, to deliver the money val assessment is a really massive work programme. There is an ever-changing landscape of financial services, which in this course of this Assembly we're going to see. So there are issues with the JFSC. They're constant issues. They've got a difficult job to do. My job is to support them and, in time, to support the conclusions of money val with the JFSC and make necessary changes. But yes, I think we have a growing financial services industry, and the Financial Services Commission is doing a good job in very difficult circumstances within a constrained workforce, and I want to give them all the support I can in the difficult work that they have, but in the short term and medium term, develop with them to grow our economy.
Supplemental, Deputy? Deputy Tanya.
Thank you. The Minister will excuse me for asking the question in English. I hope he won't mind. But I hope it goes without saying, sir, that in terms of our external relations offering, we're not simply a finance island, but tourism remains very important for us as an island. And does he share my concerns about the news that the walk-in tourism information centre, which we currently have situated at Liberation Station, is going to close, and that we won't be receiving any walk-in designated area, which is going to be staffed in the future for visitors wherever they come from, France and abroad, sir? And what kind of message does he think that sends out to the wider community about Jersey being open for business as a tourist destination?
So this is my first Questions Without Notice for, I think, 5 years. So I'm learning, and I'm learning in this role that I must be careful and well judged in the answers that I give, because he's asked me the first part of his question, the latter part of his question is absolutely fundamentally important. I see the role of external relations as promoting Jersey not simply as a finance centre. And what has been incredibly striking in France is because of the work that the Economic Development Minister, the Chief Minister and the Environment Minister and I have been doing, we have been really struck at the real interest in the historic situation of Jersey, the peculiarity of the Crown, the Duke of Normandy. All of these issues are of massive interest. The fact that Victor Hugo lived here for a while. All of these things are things that we should be celebrating. And our culture is vital, and our tourism offering is absolutely important. An External Relations Minister, all I can do is support, and outside of the island, talk about Jersey in its whole context, the past, the present, and our exciting future. The issues concerning the visitor centre are not within my area, but I agree with him. All members of this Assembly and all ministers will be doing everything they can to make sure that we are a warm, welcoming island with good travel connections and good facilities and a strong economy, which is what the financial services does, delivers that for our own community.
Supplemental then.
I would ask, I welcome the spirit of that answer, sir. It may seem like a small matter, but the tourism offering is not something simply for visitors for leisure, but also for the business community who do make use of the facilities that are available in their downtime visiting the island, sir. Would he take it, I know it's not the central part of his portfolio either, but would he speak to other ministers regarding the singular issue, which is that we are, after decades of being a tourist island, we're losing staff, they're being made redundant, who would welcome visitors physically to an area where that's been a tradition and that's going to be going, sir. Would he look at that? He doesn't need to give an answer now about whether he agrees, but would he look at that as a matter of importance, sir?
So the Deputy does raise a really important issue, and that is that our island community is a patchwork of individuals that reside here and work here. And it has been the case, I think, since the Second World War that 50% of residents of Jersey were born here and 50% weren't. The component of those that weren't born here arrived for lots of reasons: marriage, work, whether that's in the finance sector or our valued tourism and other sectors. Brexit has meant that there is a massive change in the places that workers come from. That is introduced a whole issue of work permits. This Assembly, in my time, sir, passed a work and housing law, and then that was it. You needed a work and housing law licence. Now you need a work permit. And yes, I can tell the Deputy that the issue of islanders needing to come here, and for whatever reason, whether it's tourism, particularly work in the context of his question, is a subject of ministers' conversations and ministers' concern. There is a recruitment crisis, and ministers are actively discussing that in a subgroup, which is chaired by the Chief Minister.
That, I'm afraid, brings time for questions of this Minister to an end. The next period of questions for the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister accept that the purpose of COVID vaccination is not just to protect the individual, but to help check the spread of this virus that has led to the sad deaths of 4 people a week over the last 2 weeks?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I agree, but I think the purpose behind COVID vaccination was to provide a much broader protection across the community. And I think the question that the Deputy raises is potentially leading to further questions about our rate of uptake of vaccination, which I'm pleased to report has been very favourable. I think, sadly, it does not provide total protection against death, but it does provide protection against the spread of infection within the community.
Supplemental.
Yes, sir. Could the Minister please explain why published vaccination data focuses on the 80% uptake of 50-year-olds of the autumn booster, rather than the 75% of our community who have not had their autumn booster?
Thank you, sir. I think the data that we collect is really about uptake. It's very difficult to interfere with an individual's choice about whether they choose to uptake it or not. But what the data does give us is an indication of the way in which the community wants to protect itself. And clearly that information needs to be available for islanders to see.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. At the end of October 2022, HCS had the following vacancies amongst its nursing staff: 137 vacancies, that is 20%, 1 in 5 positions not filled. Equally, in the medical field, 42 vacancies, that's 19% of vacancies not filled. Will the Minister state what measures she's taken since October and whether any progress has been made on reducing the number of vacancies?
Thank you, sir. I can confirm that the Deputy is correct in reflecting those numbers, but we do have an updated position, the information which will become available this week. I would have liked this to have been in time for this assembly, but the data isn't available. We are continuing to recruit into these vacancies. As I've reported to the Assembly before, it is just not a matter of actually filling a vacancy. We have to create the conditions necessary to retain people in Ireland. And one of the things that I have done is I have been in discussion with the Housing Minister to explore what ways we can actually start to develop packages of care that will actually provide opportunities for people to see that it is possible to come and work and live here once they've been offered an opportunity of a permanent position.
Supplemental question, Deputy Sutton.
Yes, sir. Simply, will the Minister circulate the new figures to members pronto?
Yes, sir, I will do. Thank you.
Deputy Kovac.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister confirm if there are any current agreements between Jersey and other jurisdictions than UK and its NHS that people in Jersey can benefit from when needing out-of-the-island assessment and treatment? And if there is, what is the process to apply for it?
Thank you, sir. Yes, I can confirm that we do have reciprocal health agreements with other countries. I can't list the detail of those, but I would be happy to provide the Deputy with the information about the process and also about the details of which countries we do have a reciprocal health agreement with.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
No, thank you. That was to find the other countries, but if the information will be supplied, I don't need any supplementary. Thank you.
Deputy Barbara Ward.
Yeah, thank you, sir. May I ask the Health Minister if she could update the Assembly in regards to the accommodation and its associated expense costs for the recently appointed Chair of the Health Board, and to confirm the proposed to rent a 3-bedroom flat at, I believe, over £3,000 a month, its refurbishment and other expenses.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I obviously don't have the details of that remuneration package, but what I can confirm is that the appointment of the chair of the Health Board was in line with all of the requirements for the appointment of a public servant and in line with the remuneration package that we offer. Anything supplementary to that will be at the individual's own discretion.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Minister for her response. However, sir, could the Minister state where the money is coming from to pay for all of this? And will this approach be repeated for other board members as and when they are appointed? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As I have already updated the Assembly before, our intention was to appoint a board, and we have set money aside in this year's government plan to make sure that is happening. Clearly, the details of any of the remuneration packages concerning individuals, I don't have the detail, but I'd be happy to be transparent and account for those in due course.
Very well. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. The Minister will be aware of a constituency case that I've raised with her, but I'll ask the question in more general terms to seek an answer in that way. But she knows that I'm very concerned about those who are attempting to seek support and treatment through our health system and are not getting it, and who are being told that there may be an opportunity to instead get it in the UK, but and we're all aware of the headlines of the UK health system, which don't give us much confidence about what's happening there at the moment, but would be happy to seek that treatment in an alternative jurisdiction. Could the Minister state whether she is aware of more islanders facing difficulties in receiving treatment either here or in the UK because of the extreme pressures there are on those services, and what consideration, if any, she is given to helping those people seek treatment in other countries where they are willing and able to do so?
Thank you, sir. Clearly, the Deputy will appreciate that I won't go into the particular details of that individual. There are other circumstances which I'd be happy to discuss outside of the Assembly. But as you've heard, my commitment is to actually reducing the waiting list for islanders so that we get access to treatment. I have no evidence at the moment that the situation in the UK is causing a barrier to entry for islanders. There may well be individual circumstances on a case-by-case basis that involve clinical decision-making, but overall we have had no issues raised in relation to people's difficulties in accessing the current arrangements that we have with the NHS for our tertiary care provision.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. In her answer, the Minister didn't rule out that there could be individual cases where that was an issue, and so therefore could she state whether she would be prepared to use discretion when those individual cases do arise and where there could be a benefit for them seeking treatment in other jurisdictions? Sometimes those are actually jurisdictions where there is a family connection already and where language won't be a barrier. Could she state firstly, whether she has the discretion to be able to direct that particular patient is able to be supported by our health service in seeking treatment in another jurisdiction? And if she has the power to give that direction, will she consider using it?
Thank you, sir. I think the response to the Deputy really has to be on a case-by-case basis. I think there are differences in terms of the clinical opinion, the clinical risk issues, but I would be more than happy to commit to taking each case by case and reviewing the situation in line with clinicians.
Very much. Deputy Robbold.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, given recent data that was produced on the not diagnosing of prostate cancer in the UK until stage 4, ranging from 15% in the south to 35% in Scotland, does the Minister support a routine screening programme in Jersey for this condition? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, any screening services actually offer the opportunity to save lives, so I'm very supportive of that. There is an evidence base that will actually guide the decision making about how we actually do this, but I'm very supportive of the screening offers an opportunity to do so.
Supplemental, Deputy?
No, thanks.
Deputy Howell.
Thank you, sir. In answer to my first written question in July 2022, I was told that the 12 rehabilitation beds would be reopened in Samaray, with the remaining 15 to be used as step-down beds. I would just like to ask the Minister, please, when will these 15 beds be reopened? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I will review the current situation at Samaray. There has been no change to the original intention, but I would be happy to go back to the Deputy with the response to that.
Supplemental, Deputy Howell.
I'd like to thank the Minister very much, and I'd also like to ask when the 30 dementia beds at St Saviour's, which were closed during the last government, will be reopened, because it's causing real problems within the hospital where there are patients with really severe dementia. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Obviously, I do keep track of some of the pressures within the hospital, and I'm aware that there are a number of issues that need to be addressed in terms of more complex needs for which we need more community-based solutions. But again, in terms of the detail and where those individuals are up to, I cannot give the Deputy any assurance at this moment in time, but again, happy to look at that in a bit more detail and provide some further information for her.
Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Mezek pretty much asked the question I was going to ask, so I drew down a little bit deeper insofar as the Minister's welcome efforts to reduce waiting lists. I presume, given her previous answer, she is planning to contract largely with private health providers in the UK, given the pressures on certain areas of the NHS, and I know it's specific on individual cases. Can she confirm that that is the case and update the members as to progress, and when she might be planning to begin to ease out waiting lists by implementing this new policy?
Thank you, sir. I think the Deputy obviously is aware of our efforts to attempt to reduce waiting lists across a whole range of specialties. And one of the things that I will be asking the change team who've been recently appointed to join and work to turn around the waiting list scenario, amongst other things, is to look at where we can get best value and where we can get better efficiency out of the current contracting arrangements that we've got. And as I've said, the most important thing is to make sure patients' access is uppermost and that money follows the patient need.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, and I thank the Minister for that answer, and that drive to deliver best value from the existing providers is, of course, a good idea. But we have unacceptable waiting lists currently in the island, and I believe that the Ministers and the Department efforts must be focused on reducing those. And therefore, given she is looking for best value, will she commit to looking perhaps, as Deputy Mezek suggested, outside of the UK for services that can provide a good value? That is, of course, prior to us not being able to deliver a hospital, the right hospital at the right time, sir, which of course would alleviate the situation.
Keep it to one supplemental question there.
Thank you, sir. My focus is on services, so whatever it takes to actually get great services for people is where my efforts will be directed. But one of the things that I do want to assure the Assembly is that the focus on waiting lists is really intense, and I can tell you that we are starting to see a real improvement in some of the work that has been done to reduce those waiting lists, and I want to applaud the team in achieving that. We've still got a way to go, and clearly one of the things that is important for me to keep an eye on
is whether there is any change in the general direction of travel, and the way in which that will be impacted upon will be through our ability to recruit and retain some of those specialist staff. So it is a live issue constantly, but one of the things that is most apparent to me at this moment in time is that as I'm looking down the list, when I started in this role, there were a lot of red, and we're now starting to see a lot of the areas turn to amber and to green, which is a really good improvement. The key areas I think that we're still focused on are around rheumatology, dentistry, and ophthalmology. And again, as I've said to the Assembly, our efforts around turning those waiting times around are constantly being addressed, and we will see some further improvement over the next 6 months.
That brings the period of questions to this Minister to an end. The final period of questions to the Chief Minister, Connétable St Brelard.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister issued a press release a few days ago regarding the island's resilience to deal with unprecedented global issues. She indicated, sir, that dialogue had taken place with logistics and supply chain stakeholders on the matter, but it has come to light, sir, this may not have occurred. So would the Chief Minister please confirm the present situation to members in the interest of complete transparency and to be absolutely sure that adequate provision can be made by those involved? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. And as I said in that press release, this is a matter of utmost importance, and it's one that this government has been seized upon since the very early days of our time in office. Sir, meetings on this subject have been occurring with various bodies since we took office, as I said, and I have before me a list of some of the Department of the Economy's meetings, for example, and I can confirm to the Constable that just last week I met, along with the Deputy Chief Minister, with one of those supply services, and I believe the Deputy Chief Minister is also conducting his second meeting with the Retail and Supply Subcommittee of the Chamber of Commerce this Friday.
Supplemental, Connétable.
I thank the Chief Minister. So would she agree that the presence of what some might describe as an unstable dictator in Russia tell us that the island must be in a much better state of readiness in early course for extreme world events than we presently are? And perhaps in addition to that, would you confirm who actually within government is leading this particular business? Thank you, sir.
Sir, as the Constable will be aware, as a former infrastructure minister, there are a series of ministers who have various responsibilities with regard to the island's readiness. That's for both emergencies, but also our general resilience. And I think the tragic incidents and the island's response to them in the last 6 weeks has shown to islanders and demonstrated to us all the absolute state of preparedness that our emergency services, our first responders, train for and are ready and willing to roll out and respond to as and when necessary. Of course, the Constable mentions the situation in Russia and Ukraine, and of course we're all extremely aware of that and the impact that it has on supply and costs. That's why one of our areas of relentless focus is the cost of living, sir. And that has been so since we took office, and it will continue to be so.
Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister, well, it was recently announced, sir, that our respected civil service were to get a 7.9% pay increase. Can I ask the Chief Minister, sir, if she knows the total cost that will put onto the island's payroll, and also does it apply to all civil servants, the low paid and the high paid? Thank you.
Thank you, and I thank the Deputy for the question. Of course, the absolute sum is not yet known because those pay negotiations are still ongoing with some groups, although we are delighted with the response that we have received from many groups so far, and I look forward to the good continuation and completion of those. What I can say to the Deputy and to the Assembly is that the pay negotiations that are underway, which of course are a below inflation pay offer, but they are affordable to the public purse, and that is of absolute importance. With regards to the finer detail of the question in relation to civil servants and those, I presume the Deputy is particularly wanting to know the higher pay brackets. It is, of course, well known in the island that people of all levels of income are experiencing the issues with regard to the rising cost of living, but those negotiations and discussions are taking place still in relation to those in the higher pay bracket.
Supplemental?
Yes, thank you. May I thank the Chief Minister sir, for her answer, and ask her that would she agree that if negotiations are ongoing, does she not think it might be an opportunity to just look at the high-paid civil servants, those on a £250,000 salary will receive a £20,000 per annum increase, where those on a £50,000 a year salary will receive a £4,000 salary. Will she not take the opportunity to look at that, to introducing more equity? And whilst I believe, sir, that the level of pay should relate to a percentage increase, could she not look to make that a little more fairer, sir, especially in areas where we need to encourage staff, the front lines, sir, for example, health and care workers? It might make it easier to alleviate our challenges there, sir, were we to award higher pay increases to those sectors. Thank you.
So in relation to the first part of that question, which was rather lengthy, I can only say that that relates to the figure quoted by the Deputy, relates to an extremely small group of people, less than 5, and so it would be impossible for me to answer because that would be of an extremely personal nature, sir. But it is an issue that we are most definitely seized upon and aware of. One of our other areas of relentless focus, I referred to one of them in my previous answer to the Constable of St Brillards, but another of our areas of relentless focus is recruitment and retention. We are absolutely seized upon the need to stabilise our workforce and to ensure that we have a strong and continuous workforce, especially in the areas of need, critical areas, which are, of course, education and healthcare.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir, and apologies for leaving my light on. I'm following up on the Constable of St Brillards question, I find. In light of the recent announcement by the Chief Minister to prioritise looking into the support of supply chain resilience, does the Chief Minister accept there is a tension between resilience policy and competition policy, and that supply chain resilience requires government prioritisation over competition policy?
Well, that's an extremely interesting question and a matter that we have discussed, in fact. I would agree with the Deputy that competition can drive down prices, and that is, of course, in all of our interests. And we are most currently focused on those areas where we have some levers of control that can actually make the greatest impact in terms of the cost of living and prices that the consumers of Jersey are asked to pay.
Supplemental, Deputy Scott?
Yes, sir. Might the Chief Minister consider that in some cases monopolies or sole trading rights can support supply chain resilience, and will she be looking to her Minister of Economic Development to urgently review any policy directions provided to the ports of Jersey regarding proposals to promote competition in light of the need to prioritise supply chain and connectivity resilience?
Well, as I think the Deputy alluded to, that is a matter for the Deputy Chief Minister in his role as Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture, sir. But of course, we, as I said in my previous answer, are very focused on the issues of supply chains. And if there were any lack of competition in particular areas, we would most certainly be looking to regulations to require some element of price protection.
Deputy Hull.
Thank you, sir. Please can the Chief Minister explain to the many islanders who support the Jersey Independent Lifeboat why the lifeboat has been prevented from operation for so long? Thank you, sir.
Well, sir, this has been a long-standing and unfortunate stream of events, but this is something that we are most certainly hoping to see an end. And there are many people focused at the moment on seeing the Jersey Lifeboat Association return to the water. I can say to the Deputy that I met along with the Deputy Chief Minister and an officer last month, I believe it was still. We met with the JLA and heard some of their concerns, and they too are very much focused on returning to the water. A process has been ongoing, some facilitated discussions, and we look forward to those being finalised. They're very much in the final stages of that process.
Supplemental, Deputy Hull?
Yes, thank you, sir. So please can the Chief Minister inform the Assembly of the precise date that we will once again have the Jersey lifeboat back in the water? Thank you, sir.
As I said in my previous answer, those discussions are ongoing. They're in their final stages, and we would hope that that conclusion will be reached swiftly.
Well, Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. And following on from the line of questioning from the Constable of St Brelard, could the Chief Minister confirm for members when she took office as Chief Minister, when she received her first briefing from officers about what contingency plans are in place in the island if we face some sort of mass emergency of the type that's been discussed in this? And when she was briefed on those plans, could she indicate whether she thought plans were adequate or not, and if she sought improvements to those plans, what improvements were they?
Sir, amongst a great number of briefings and in the early stages of government in particular, I can't recall any exact date without having that piece of information to hand. I must apologise to the Deputy for that, my failure of memory. However, it is of course a matter of great importance, and one that I am assured we have good measures in place, but one of course that we can always seek to improve. And we are doing that. That is one of the reasons why the Minister for Home Affairs has an updating of the Civil Contingencies Law in her brief, and she's committed to that in her ministerial plan and her delivery plan, which is soon to be published.
Supplemental.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And in seeking to give us confidence in those plans that are in place and the Minister's, Chief Minister's familiarity with them, is she able to tell us things like what is in place to ensure that Jersey, if it faced some sort of geopolitical crisis and was cut off from Europe and the UK, how many days worth of food we would be able to rely on, how many days worth of fuel we would be able to rely on, and what is in place to supplement that in the event of an emergency where we were not able to self-sufficiently run ourselves for a prolonged period of time because of a crisis.
So some of the more precise answers to that question are actually provided in the answer to a written question that the Constable of St Brelard's asked, and that's been published with all the questions, and I would ask the Deputy to take a look. I'm sure he'll find it helpful. The Emergencies Council, sir, would gather if there was a state of emergency declared, and there are various various procedures in place that, of course, would unfold if that was the case. If a state of emergency is not declared, then, of course, and as we can see from recent events, that we have a high level of preparedness, an extremely professional emergency services provision, and we stand ready to work with our island neighbours as well to ensure that we can respond to any emergency or difficulty that arises.
Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister has a wide portfolio, so I'm going to try my luck about the Tourist Information Centre again with her. And if she can answer questions on lifeboats, so I'm sure she can answer questions on something that's fundamental to our economy. Will the Chief Minister take a personal interest in the closure of the Tourist Information Centre, which also includes the redundancy of the staff there and the idea that the staff will not be replaced, they'll be simply replaced by a digital hub? Would she look at this issue with the Minister for Economic Development to find out why 20 years ago we had a very prominent walk-in centre in Liberation Square, and now we've got one that's in a bus station which is about to be closed, and whether this sends out the right kind of message for Jersey being open as a tourist centre?
Thank you, Deputy, for the challenge, which I, of course, will accept. My somewhat strategic role, of course, takes a great interest in many aspects of island life. And, of course, tourism is an extremely important part of island life. We look forward to welcoming a constant stream of tourists, particularly in the summer months, but also in the shoulder months. I very much doubt there are many walking around the streets of St Helier today, unfortunately, due to our inclement weather. However, we do have, of course, arm's length organisations such as Visit Jersey and who take decisions. And I can only assume, sir, that that decision is somewhat in line with changing circumstances and changing attitudes towards communicating and receiving information, because of course we are now as the most digitally connected community in the world, all looking to iPads and devices to provide us with information, and as opposed to human contact. That is not always the best way, but of course we have very well trained staff in our hospitality businesses also, who are always happy, as well as the occasional bypasser as well, I'm sure, sir, always happy to assist tourists with any information that they need.
That brings the period for questions to the Chief Minister to an end. It's that time. Is the adjournment proposed? Yes, sir. The Assembly stands adjourned until 2:15.